Hello, Threshold. Welcome to another one of our sessions. These are all about equipping missional communities. Now, these are for anyone, regardless of whether you're leading a missional community, whether you're in one, or whether you're just wondering about what they are and how do we start them, how do we sustain them, what they do. So I hope you feel really welcome and really encouraged as we go through this session. So, just to recap, in these sessions, we look at three questions really. What is? So, we reflect on where we are now in our small missional communities. And then we look at what could be. And we ask God to open our hearts and our minds. And we often dwell on the question, I wonder what could be. And then we look at the question, what will be? So, how do we craft an exciting tomorrow? Where do we go from here? How do we move forward? Okay, so last time we looked at vision, and if you haven't seen that video, it's on our YouTube channel. Hop over and have a look. And we zoomed out and we looked at Threshold's big vision, which is actually quite a small vision in some ways. We see vibrant, small Christian communities in every village, doing life together, praying for the places that they inhabit, and making disciples. This is a grassroots movement that we're looking at. We're just wanting to see vibrant Christian communities that make it easy for people to come to faith, to experience God, to ask questions, to do life with other Christians, and get to know this person called Jesus, who we all have experienced in our lives and who's made a big difference to us. And we're all called to fish, aren't we? We're all called, we have this vision of each small missional community being a little bit like a small boat that goes out and sails. And we demonstrate the gospel by loving each other. John chapter 13, verses 34, 35. I'll give you a new command. Love one another just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. So there's a real beautiful sense of just doing life with each other and demonstrating the gospel, and also telling others about Jesus. And this is stuff that takes years and years and years and years and years. It's not quick fixes to a different way of doing church. This is just persistently and faithfully living in a new way in these small boats. But we're already starting to see green shoots across the north villages of Lincolnshire. We're seeing people come to faith or exploring faith. Many of these people are folks who, for whatever reason, can't get to traditional church as we used to know it on a Sunday morning. And so what we're finding is that these small missional communities, these small boats, are often or are becoming the primary place of discipleship. It is what they know, these new people, it's what they know as church. And it's exciting. It's agile, it's easily maneuverable. It gives us opportunity to reimagine rural church and do things in ways that are highly contextual, highly creative, and very, very relational. So it's exciting times. So today we're going to be looking at values. Values help us to guide our boat over the long term. So they're really important. They're good to get established right at the beginning when you're launching your small boat, your small community. But they're also good to check in on from time to time as well, just to make sure that your boat hasn't drifted slightly one way or another, or your values have changed for the worse. So here's just a few quotes that help us to understand values. Values are the beliefs and principles that you believe are important in the way you live. Values are basic and fundamental beliefs that guide or motivate actions or attitudes. They help us to determine what is important to us. Values are your ideas about what is most important for you in your life, what you want to live by and live for. They guide many of your actions and your decisions. Now, there are loads of guides online that are written for businesses and secular organizations that help you to um, determine what the values are of your company, whatever it might be. And often these encourage kind of blue sky thinking. You can choose words from a long list of different things. It might be integrity or beauty. It might be compassion. Now, if the Holy Spirit is like the wind in our sails, then our values are a bit like the rudder. They help to steer our small boat, make sure that we're staying true to the course that we feel that we've been given to sail. And none of this will be a revelation to you, but it's good just to pause now and again to create space and allow the Holy Spirit to guide our thoughts, especially if you've been going for some time. And these sort of word lists that we can find online are important, but normally they encourage you to choose your top 5 words or your top 3 words, and to dwell on them. And we are going to do that a little bit later. It is important, but I think first of all, I'd like you just to have a little chat in your groups, or if you're just looking on this on your own, maybe just pause the video and have a little think about the following questions. Now, there's often a link between some of your best early childhood memories and the values that you hold true today. And I'd like you to think about a time when you were in church doing something for the kingdom that you absolutely loved. And if every day was like this day, you'd be exceptionally happy. Have a little think about that. You don't need to share it with others in the group if you don't want to, but maybe just jot it down on a bit of paper. And then when you've finished with that question, have a little think about one of your most valuable childhood memories. Have a think about where you were, what it was that you were doing, how you felt at that time. So just have a little think about those 2 things. Maybe pause the video and then come back to this video. Okay, hopefully your questions will have stimulated a lot of debate, a lot of discussion, and hopefully you will have seen a little link between the 2 things. For me, I remember as a child being taken to Disneyland, Florida, and it was just incredible. Now, we didn't often do that. This was kind of once in a lifetime sort of a holiday. And I remember exploring it with my family, and it was just this incredible sense of adventure, incredible sense of discovery, doing it together with people that I trusted and I loved. And I remember encountering creativity that I'd never seen before. I'd never seen storytelling done in the way that they'd done at Disneyland, Florida. And then when I thought about, what was it that I was doing in church that I felt really satisfied with, and what did I feel was really fulfilling? And it was when I've done these last couple of years, I've done these events called Stories and Songs, which is essentially where we gather creative folk and we tell stories of the Christian faith in a very simple and very creative way, through songwriting, through poetry, through art. When we've done it over the last couple of years, we've hired the village hall, we've had the bar open. It's been open to Christians, but also, it's done in a way that folks who are exploring faith could understand and relate to. And so I look at those 2 things and think, wow, there's a link there. For me, I get excited when we explore faith in creative ways that are not the norm, not just sort of banging out Sunday morning services, but we're looking at doing storytelling and using the arts and using creativity in ways which are exciting, and we explore it with others who are uh, those who are established in the faith and those who are exploring as well. That's what excites me, and there's that helps me to understand perhaps some of the values that I want to bring to the small community that we're wanting to establish here in Scotland, where we've moved to recently. We want to do life with other people, Christians, but also those who are exploring faith. And we want to do it in a way that is relevant and contextual and exciting and just very organic. Okay, so when you craft your values for your small boat, um, it often starts with a handful of like-minded people. Here in Scotland, really, it's just me, Lids, and the kids at the moment, but we're starting to build relationships with others. But it's in this early stage that you need to carefully guard the vision and the values. You need to make sure that whoever's in your small boat, your small community, that you know what your values are and that you all agree to them. You will have trouble down the line if you have different values. If one of you really values organic approaches to church, very off the cuff, kind of, well, let's, we've got a bit of a plan, but let's see where the Holy Spirit takes us. If somebody else in the group values organization and values, being having a very rigid plan, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, different people, different wired, different ways. But if you've got people holding different values, you might encounter difficulties later on. So it's really good just to set out your values, especially as you're starting. So we're going to sort of leave it here and just encourage you to go and hunt down online some different word lists. If you want to have a go after when we pause this video here, have a go at selecting your top 5 words that help to define your group. There's loads of different words online. You can just get a dictionary and just go through and look at what words are relevant to you. But what I would say is that the world, when it selects, their 5 top words to define their business, they can select really from any word in the dictionary that they want. But us as Christians have a more restricted word list to choose from. That's because our values should be shaped by what we call divine principles. So the Bible gives us ways of living. So it tells us to love God. It tells us to love our neighbours. It tells us to make disciples and to care for the poor, the widows, the orphans, those without a voice, those in prison. And it also tells us to care for creation. So if any of the words that we choose are in conflict with any of those things, and I can't imagine that we would choose any words that are in conflict, but what I'm saying is that our words our values need to reflect broader principles. So, and there's no point sort of duplicating things. So, if one of your top 5 values at the moment is compassion, well, that's a really good value, but every Christian should hold that value. Every Christian group, every church should hold that value. So maybe choose something else. That's a given. Prayer could be one of your values. Now, obviously, prayer, every Christian, every church, every group is called to prayer, but it might be that you feel a specific call for your group to act as a prayer house or prayer catalyst, or have a particular role for intercession. That's great. You can pop that down on your list. So that's all I wanted to say in this session. This session is more about you going away and thinking about your group and coming up with things. So next month we'll be meeting up to chat about your values that you've chosen. So a bit of homework from here on. Have a little think about those 2 questions we asked earlier about, what was a favourite childhood memory? What was a thing that you enjoyed in church recently? And then have a go at creating a word list for your group and see if you can agree it together. Once you've got your 5 words, you might want to then write a sentence or 2 around those words just to define it a bit more. So, for example, if you've written the word prayer, well, what does that mean? Maybe write a sentence. We feel we're called to be a prayer catalyst or intercessory group or whatever it might be. Have a go at that. Have some fun with it. Remember the phrase, "I wonder." Let's be experimental. Let's be creative. And enjoy the journey that God's brought you on. So bless you all. Hope that's helpful. See you next month.